Every day we communicate with each other in many different ways, through talking, texting, or even mail. But have you ever considered how our own body communicates with itself? How the trillions of cells inside our own body work together to make us who we are? Unlike people, our cells don't communicate through talk. They communicate through chemicals called ligands. Think of ligands as the sound of our voice. Every cell can talk by releasing them. There are four main ways that our cells communicate: direct signaling, paracrine signaling, endocrine signaling, and autocrine signaling. Direct signaling is when a cell communicates to only one cell that's next to it. Think of this as whispering. The best way to hear someone is when they're right next to you. Direct signaling occurs through gap junction in animal cells and plasmodesmata in plant cells. These are water-filled channels that allow particles, such as calcium, to be moved between cells. Whispering is effective when you want to communicate with one person. But how about a group? In this case, people will just talk at normal volume. It's like when our cells use paracrine signaling. In paracrine signaling, cells can get to other nearby cells by releasing their ligands. These ligands are then received by other nearby cells and allow cells to communicate and coordinate activities. In our nerve cells, however, things are a bit different. Nerve cells use synaptic signaling. Ligands that occur in nerve cells are labeled as neurotransmitters. They go through a synaptic cleft to cross between the nerves and receive the signal. When we need to send a message to someone who's far, we may text or call them. This is equivalent to our cells using endocrine signaling. This form of cell communication releases a ligand that travels through a bloodstream to other cells that are far away. Ligands that are sent through endocrine signaling are labeled as hormones. But have you ever been so lost in thought you find yourself talking to yourself? Our cells do this too, through autocrine signaling. In autocrine signaling, cells release a ligand that they can then receive. Autocrine signaling can be used to let a cell to know when to start growing. Sometimes information gets muddled in the process. If I were to text my dad KK, he wouldn't know what that means. In order to understand a cell's message, cells go through three different phases: reception, transduction, and response, known as the signal transduction pathway. Reception is when the cell receives the ligand. This step is super important because it makes sure only the cell that needs the message gets that message. Think of it like your phone number. Every person has their own individual number, and it makes sure only they receive the call. Luckily, each cell has a specific receptor on it that matches with a specific ligand. When the ligand and receptor match, the cell can receive the signal. After a reception phase, transduction occurs. After the ligand attaches to the receptor, it usually changes the receptor shape or activates an enzyme which can lead to a chain of events inside the cell which can amplify the signal. Think of transduction as our brain. It converts the noise that our ears pick up into something we can understand. In cells, transduction converts the signal from the reception into something our own cells can understand. This message then gets related to the final part, response. Response is the final process of communication between cells. It is the intended product that gets produced as a result of the message. For example, if the ligand instructs the cell to produce insulin, in the response phase, insulin will be produced. So while we communicate through words, sounds, or text, our cells communicate through a whole set of processes. It's amazing what goes on inside our own bodies that we don't even feel. So next time you're talking to someone, think about all the communication your cells are doing. Thanks for watching.